Please be seated. Why do you look for the living among the dead? It's such an interesting question these dazzling guys bring up to the already terrified women. In some sense, to me, it's like they're dunking on them. Have they come all this way to the tomb and the stone is missing? And now these dazzling guys say, hey, why are you looking for the thing you're looking for in the place you usually might be looking for something else? Why do you look for the living among the dead? And it's like, well, we didn't know he was living. Dear dazzling men in white, cut us some slack. We're looking because that's what you do. You go look for your friend when he's died, and maybe blessing his dead body with oil or tending to his cloths. Maybe it will mean something, anything. That's what you do, dazzlers. Either the dazzlers don't get it, or they're assuming that these women should have understood the message all along. But then the dazzlers cause them to remember. And remember means bear in mind again. One of the etymologies you can think of is like how we say memento mori. Do you know that famous phrase? It means bear in mind death, remember death, carry it in your mind. And actually, that's what Jesus' friends were doing that day, and it did make sense, dazzlers, that they would remember death. Christians can do that too. In fact, we've just been through Lent, and beginning on Ash Wednesday, memento mori was what we were doing, remembering we are dust, and to dust we shall return. We were saying to each other, bear in mind death. But the dazzlers say something different now. I'm so glad they say something constructive. I'm glad they say more than, hey, why are y'all even here? They say, remember how he told you? Remember what Jesus was on about? Remember how he spoke of life and death and life like it perseveres. Remember how he told you. Bear in mind his word of life. Memento vita, I'm thinking they say. Well, the way Luke tells it, when they hear this, they do remember something strong, something true, and they're amazed and they go. One November, I went with my friend Richard to Dinosaur Valley State Park in Texas. And it was November. And we were like, should we go camping with some pretty light gear that we have? And I said, sure. I live in the high desert now. I live right at the Sierras. I can handle Central Texas, November, no problem. Friends, it was cold. It got cold. And we went for a hike around the park, and we were talking and catching up, and it was a long but good day. And the sun was setting, and we found ourselves in a predicament where it was like the only way back is now to cross the Paluxy River that winds through the park. And I've preached recently on this before, but it's true that we humans find ourselves inescapably in these moments where the famous camp song is so true in your life, the one that says, you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go around it, you must go through it. I mean, we looked at our little map and we were like, the only way is to cross this river now. And for us on that cold November day, we must go through the Paluxy River. And so we took our socks and boots off and we stepped on the slippery rocks to cross. Richard was a few paces ahead of me, and as the time went on, his pace gained ahead of me. And it was cold. It was like the painful kind of cold. I thought my feet might fall off. I thought maybe it could be a little more cold, and then I'd become so numb I wouldn't feel this as much. But as I remember it, it just stayed painful. Cold and a strange pain. And we were in a place where dinosaurs had walked. And I'd seen the imprint of a theropod earlier that day. And especially in the rivers, the vibe was like, always keep a lookout. You could be discovering new old tracks all the time. So it was in this place where you look for clues of what once has lived, and in a place that is observing a recording of ancient creatures that are long dead. I just wanted to stay breathing. I could have discovered a new track to my right or my left, and I would not have cared. I wanted to not become them. I wanted to make it across the Paluxy. And if I'm being honest, I didn't just want to make it. I wanted to make it in some kind of honorable fashion, if at all possible. I didn't want Richard to know how much I was struggling. Cold and slipping, almost headed all the way in a couple of times. Him shouting back, "You okay, buddy?" And me saying with a quivering voice, "You know it." Easter's surprise finds us in just such a place. Easter is an event of God that prompts us in the midst of our stories and experiences of death to bear in mind life. Though it's a struggle, though it is painful, even though it is a fight for hope, remember. Peter's the last character mentioned in our Luke reading today, and Peter needed to remember life. You know his story. He failed spectacularly. It's in the record. The story of his denial of Jesus at the trial and Jesus' death. The Gospels don't hide it. They almost highlight it. They tell it plainly. Last week, Sophia was the words of Jesus in our Passion drama, where we said, "Simon, Simon, Satan has desired to sift you as wheat, but I have prayed," this is Jesus, "for you, Peter, that your faith may not fail, and you, when you turn again, strengthen your brethren." Peter does fail. Jesus prays, Peter still fails. He famously denies Jesus. But what's this about when you turn again, make your friends strong? And here's Peter at the empty tomb, hearing others say they were told to remember what Jesus told you. Can Peter remember the "when you turn again" part? We all know what would have been easy and all too human for Peter to dwell upon. Maybe he couldn't stop to forget that he had betrayed his Jesus. But if he remembers Jesus' words, maybe he remembers, "Simon Peter, when you turn again, strengthen your siblings." What I'm saying is, Peter can easily bear in mind death. He knows his Lord's death. He knows the death of his own promise to that Lord. What about bearing in mind life? The life that is the gift of this brother Jesus. Full human, come to be with us and to keep loving and obeying his Father. He gave up himself even unto death. He trusted God to his bitter end, making a way for all of creation to trust God's promises. And Easter's story is not just that God can bring a body back to life. The story is the promise of life is reconciled to us through resurrection. You and me and Peter can bear in mind the Creator doesn't leave us abandoned or detached, but descends to us and meets our need, lives among us, and even put to death, he goes so willingly that love lives on again. A creator creating. Remember that you can trust this God of mercy and renewal, and you can bear in mind life. God turns our crucifixions into life. You can tell I made it across the river that day, remembering my baptism if I was smart. Richard and I were rubbing our feet back to life on the far side, slowly warming. Sometimes Easter life is slow. But there it was in the middle of Dinosaur Valley State Park, like it's a memorial to ancient steppers of stones. And we made it through on our cold November river, calling out to each other, one foot in front of the other. I know you may be in a hard time in a river of your life, maybe surrounded by narratives of death and decay and sinking. I feel it. We share that, trust me. But even there, in our cold and dark, Christ's risen life is our source of strength and consolation. Calling out, one foot in front of the other. Bear in mind what he told us. He would love us to the very end, and that would be enough, and he would send help so we could love each other. Bear in mind again life. Though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we still hear ringing melodies of Easter promise life. It bears you to the other side. Alleluia, Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. Alleluia. Amen.